Hello, and welcome to this brief overview of the Equal Size Changes tool for Proshow Gold and Producer. Until I developed this tool with its latest enhancements, giving layer outlines or frames to Proshow Gold similar to what was possible in Proshow Producer was extremely difficult, if not impossible. That's no longer the case. But first, let's get a brief overview of the tool itself. Welcome to this brief introduction to my Equal Size Changes tool. It can be found within my Tools for Proshow worksheet, and it was a tool that I created to address what I consider as limitations to Proshow's outline and shadow features. Now, to get around those limitations, you would use another layer to give the appearance of an outline or shadow to another layer. The layer that's being used to create the outline or shadow is it's going to be created with the same characteristics as the layer that's getting the shadow and outline. That is, it's going to have the same aspect, scale, and size as the other layer, and then placed below it in the layer queue, and then resize so that its size will extend beyond the edges of the layer above it. Now, in the Equal Size Changes tool, you're going to create that by choosing either 1, 2, or 3 for the user-defined aspects. And so, what happens here when you choose this is you get the dimensions of the layer associated with layer 1, 2, or 3, as well as its scale. If you choose a predefined aspect, such as one of these here, then you're going to need to identify a scale to use with that aspect that you've chosen. Finally, you would choose the starting zoom for that layer. Now that you've got the initial conditions set up, now you're going to provide the amount of change that you want to see in that layer. That is, how much it's going to extend beyond the confines of the other layer. And you do that by identifying a value of zoom that is the final zoom setting, or is a percent change from the original zoom. And you would do that for either the x-axis or the y-axis. And the other axis will be automatically defined or calculated for you. Now, if you wanted, you could also specify the specific amount of change from the original value that you want to see on each side. The value down here represents the entire change. This value just represents one of the sides. When you've finally defined what the change in size is going to be, you're going to end up with values of the ending zoom for the x and y axes, the amount of change in percent from the original, and you're also going to get information that allows you to use a specific zoom, in this case starting and ending zoom, with a modifier value, which will give you the same results. If you use the end zoom, you can specify whether that zoom is going to be the x-axis or the y-axis. Also, once you get finished with this defining of the change in size, you're going to get a effective aspect for the final layer. You're also being given the effective aspects for the starting layer as well, so you have something to reference from, as well as their the ratio of those dimensions. Once this layer has been created, either as a Proshow layer of a solid or a gradient layer, or from within a graphic editor, you're going to import that into Proshow Gold or Producer and give it a size that is specified, or zoom that's specified here, and you're going to give it a scale. You're going to make sure it has this, whatever setting this is for a scale here. This will work for both Proshow Gold and for Proshow Producer. The actual settings, manually setting the zoom for each of the axes or using modifiers to change the size of the axes will not work in Gold because Proshow Gold doesn't allow modifiers, and there's no way to change the zoom of each axis independent of each other. Now, the next thing you're going to notice here is that we have a starting and ending width and height. This is useful for identifying whether or not the changes that you're making are what you would expect. And that pretty much covers it. Proshow Gold has one narrow outline. This outline is often too wide or not wide enough. Proshow Shadow Feature has a shadow always in the lower right hand corner. It's uneven and it's not editable. Proshow Producer has outline widths of 1 to 5, with 1 being the narrowest, and 5 being the widest. This outline is centered on the layer's outer edge, and when the width change occurs, it's on either side of that center line. Therefore, the outline is half on and half off the layer. Outline corners are rounded, and they're not editable. The ability to change a shadow's opacity is the only difference from the Gold Shadow Feature. Now, to address the inherent limitations of the Proshow outline and shadow features, you'll need to create your own outlines using another layer. These examples that follow are going to demonstrate that ability. The magenta layer is the layer being given the outline. The white layer, called zoomed, is sized by unlocking the X and Y axes, and the green layer, or dimensioned, is given a specific dimension and zoom setting. This latter option is what makes the equal size changes useful for Gold users. Now I'm going to be using a variety of outline widths to demonstrate that the zoomed layer result is the same as the dimensioned layer results. In this particular example, I'm using a 4:3 aspect reference layer using a fit to frame scale. The starting and ending, or the starting zooms for the X and Y axis is exactly the same, but they don't have to be. You do need to know though that if that's the case, the X and Y axes are different zoom settings. The results only apply to Proshow Producer since Gold cannot vary the X and Y axes separately. Just a little bit of a typo glitch here. Okay, now that the outline has been sized, notice that they're exactly the same between the dimensioned and zoomed. Now we create another outline width. We're going to change the dimensioned layers, to match what that outline width specifies. And we're going to give it the associated zoom setting. And then go vary the zoomed layers ending zoom values, and then compare the two of them. And they're exactly the same. We'll do one last example. We'll set it to 2. Dimension the dimensioned layer appropriately. Give it the associated zoom setting that's required for that dimension. And then set the ending zoom values for the zoomed layer. And they're the same. Now I'm going to create a graphic that I'm going to use as an outline. I'm going to set it up for this particular dimension of 4:3 at a 2.81 width. Now first I create the graphic, and then I'm going to put an object on that matches the same size as the graphic, or we'll call it a canvas. give it the colors that I want. And then we're going to start making changes that are going to end up being within the delta W and H, or the change in width and height that is specified by the settings provided in the equal size changes tool. As long as I stay within these dimensions, I'll be able to have an outline that looks exactly the way I want, and that I can put over the top of the image or underneath of it, because I'm going to take the center out of this thing. All right, now I'm going to save myself a little bit of work. I'm not describing at all how I'm creating this per se. It's up to you to do the dimensionings and whatnot. The purpose is not to show you how to create an outline, but I'm showing you that I'm creating an outline within the confines or the limitations provided by the tool. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it up so that I can take the center part out. So I'm going to put a mask in and then size that mask according to the dimensions that I want to keep and the dimensions that I want to remove. I remove the mask itself. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a kind of a bevel to the entire frame so that I can modify the inner edge so it doesn't look quite so bad. Give it a little bit of extra oomph, so to speak. Doesn't have to be very wide. Now I just save the outline, or save this graphic, and then we'll go to Proshow Gold and import it. We're going to drag and drop it into the program. I'm going to position it to the top. It's already got the scale that I need, which is fit to frame. According to the tool, the equal size changes tool, I need an 89.91 zoom. Or I can round that up to 90, or I can just type in the exact amount. Fits like a glove. It's properly dimensioned, size graphic, unlike anything that's been able to be done in gold before. That's the end of the presentation. Thanks for watching.